Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm Madeline Kumar-Yega. I have the privilege to lead Miami-Dade College, but most importantly, I have the privilege to lead what I believe is the best academic leaders council in the country. There are not many cities or communities that are committed to making sure that the education ecosystem drives the talent that our community needs. And I can say that working together with my colleagues at the universities in our community, along with our school district leadership, we are doing that. We wake up every day thinking about how do we provide opportunities for individuals in our community to level up, to upskill, and ensure that our industry partners not only come to Miami to start their business, most importantly, that they stay in Miami to continue to grow their businesses. We know that businesses in Miami-Dade County are small businesses. We have the strongest small business ecosystem. 80% of the businesses in Miami-Dade County employ less than 50 people, making the academic leader institutions so important in driving that kind of workforce need, not only for our small businesses, but also for the businesses that we're attracting to Miami, and certainly for our large employers like our hospitals, school districts. We just had an opportunity to meet with travel and tourism in our hotels. So today we really have an opportunity to take a look at what happens when we don't drive that kind of educational impact and talent impact. The Academic Leaders Council last year set an educational attainment goal, a talent goal for our community. 65% by 2040 would hold a high quality credential, whether it's an industry certification, an associate's, a bachelor's, and beyond. And we set that goal because we know for us to continue to drive economic development and economic impact, we're going to need that talented workforce. That goal aligned to Governor DeSantis's goal to make Florida #1 in workforce. And a couple of years back, we heard from the Lumina Foundation and their national goal as well. Today, we're going to hear from someone who's a great friend of this community, a friend to all of us, and a thought leader around the country about driving opportunity and being able to ensure that everyone has that path. Often we hear that college is not for everyone. Everything points to a knowledge economy. A global and knowledge economy requires more individuals to upskill, and it requires us to do more partnerships, as we've done. And by the way, it's some of the traditional partnerships that are from internships into employment. There's some of our more non-traditional partnerships, like our partnership with TAP, that allows young people to enter the teaching profession, and that collaboration together, alongside our partnership with our hospitals that developed pathway programs from CNA to RN when we were seeing that nursing shortage, and partnerships in the aviation and aerospace ecosystem that we see a priority for our state. So some of those pathways look like the ones we've created along the way, but many today are focused with industry partners. Today's study, the Billions Report, the Florida Billions Report, really speaks to what it's easy for education leaders to say it. And people go, of course. But when a study comes out that says, if you want to drive path to prosperity, if you want to drive opportunities, it's a good economic decision. It's a good return on investment, and it helps elevate communities, and it helps businesses thrive. And today we're going to hear from Paul Luna, the president and CEO of the Helios Education Foundation. Paul, coming up. He's the only one that can sport some really nice Nikes here. But you know, Paul's roots are in South Florida, so he's always happy to come home and plays between Arizona and Florida. But I think what the Helios Education Foundation has been doing for decades, and they just celebrated a really important 20 years, right, of impact, and many of on our team were there to celebrate. It's really creating opportunity. It's really creating pathways, and you've been a champion for everyone and many of our institutions here. So thank you so much for your support, and Paul, take it away.
So thank you, Chancellor, and good afternoon. It is truly our pleasure to have the opportunity to be with you this afternoon, and as the Chancellor indicated, share a little bit of information and research that's grounded in the idea of ensuring that we all have the opportunity and ability to advocate as to why education is so important and what it really means to our communities and to our students and families, but more importantly, the communities and the states that we serve through the economic impact that education drives. As the Chancellor indicated, I do want to acknowledge the 20th anniversary of our foundation, and it's been grounded very much in a commitment to serving all students in Arizona and Florida, which are the two states that we serve. I want to begin by thanking the Beacon Council, to Rod Miller, to J.C. Liscano from the board, and the members of the Beacon Council for allowing us to be here with you this afternoon. J.C. asked me to make a point to acknowledge that I am a Miami native. However, not as cool as all of you, because I am a native of Miami, Arizona, not Miami, Florida. I do appreciate the confusion because you've embraced me as one of your own, but my hometown is a small little copper mining town that's smaller than most of the high schools in Miami, Florida. But I fully embrace this South Florida vibe, and I think that's why I wear my Jordans all the time to try to fit in. Chancellor Pumariega, longtime friend of Helios Education Foundation through numerous partnership opportunities over the years. You've always been so good and gracious to us with your thought partnership, your guidance, your counsel on how we as a foundation can do meaningful work in education. And I thank you for that and for hosting us today here at MDC and the Academic Leaders Council. And I think you're absolutely right when you say we have an opportunity to engage, again, across 2 states. We engage beyond that where we can, but the Academic Leaders Council that you referenced coming together, as powerful as it is, I think is an example of what true education leadership looks like. And so we're grateful to be a part of that as well, and to have your invitation to be with you today. I do want to acknowledge that today you're going to hear what we call at Helios the Paul and Paul Show. My colleague Paul Peralt, who heads up all of our research and evaluation, he's really the substance, so any of the questions that you might have, we're going to ask you to submit them through the QR code on your table. Paul will answer them if they're technical. If they're fun and light, they're mine, and I'm happy to take those. But the technical one goes to Paul. Our colleague Kimberly Lent Morales, who was going to join us today, unfortunately could not join us. She fell ill, so she couldn't be here today. So you'll have to be stuck with just the Paul and Paul show today. Very briefly, we just wanted to begin by describing a little bit about who we are at Helios, just for context more than anything. So for those of you who are not familiar with us, we want to share that we are an education foundation that exists to ensure that post-secondary attainment is available to all students in Arizona and Florida. And we've been, over the past 20 years, invested over $350 million in that effort to help students succeed. We've partnered and supported nearly 2.4 million students during that time frame. We've engaged in supportive programmatic partner activities with well over 500,000 teachers and education leaders. And I don't want to say more importantly, but equally important is the partnerships that we have with many of you in the room. Because you'll hear in a second, Helios is really grounded in fundamental beliefs, and one of them is this idea of partnership. Because we know that it's only through partnership and collaboration that any meaningful work in improving education outcomes for students happens through partnerships. And we have many in the room, but I want to acknowledge Leslie Miller-Sines, who has been a longtime friend and champion of Helios. beginning with Teach for America, longtime partner, now Achieve Miami. We mentioned the TAP program that we're so proud to be a part of, but Leslie has been a longtime friend to me personally, to all of us at Helios, and it's great to see you, Leslie. And it's those types of partnerships that we think really move education outcomes. I mentioned our foundational beliefs. We are grounded simply in this idea that education changes lives and makes our communities better. So it's not just education for education's sake. It's education because we know the transformational power and impact that education has on our communities. So we're about community improvement. And that's why we love to partner with organizations like the Beacon Council, who are also grounded in this idea of how do we improve our communities. We believe that education is an investment, not an expense. And any really good investment brings a return. And that's what this research is really about. It's really describing and making very tangible what the economic return on investment is for what the investments that we make in education. We believe in the idea that every student, and that's why we call it equity in education, every student, regardless of their background, their zip code, where they're from, every student should have the opportunity to succeed in education and achieve their educational dreams. And as I mentioned before, everything we do is in partnership and collaboration with others. By ourselves, we have limited to no impact. In partnership with all of you, that's how we can make a difference, and we thank you for your willingness to partner with us. We think about our work as always being driven by data and being results-oriented. Like any other business, we have to measure our results. And we think about the impact that we want to have across the full education continuum that a student might experience. So we start in early education and the importance of reading by third grade. Florida historically has been a leader in establishing and acknowledging the importance of reading by third grade. And we lean into that with full force, knowing that the foundational success of a child's early education will put them on that journey to education success long term. We also focus on how do we make sure we're then engaging the students to ensure that they're ready and prepared to be successful as they navigate the K-12 system and move into some type of post-secondary environment. And we think about that in the broadest terms. How do students move into all the multiple pathways of success beyond high school? How do we prepare them for that? So we focus on third grade reading, on increasing that college, generic term, college going rate for our states, and then ultimately, as the chancellor indicated, aligning to the attainment goal of the state of Florida, the SAIL to 60, and making sure our students are contributing to achieving that attainment goal that we have as a state. Finally, our approach to this work is that of a community engagement organization. We like to say we're more than a grant maker. We do bring resources to the partnerships, but more importantly, we think it's important to bring more than that. So we bring a public policy and advocacy voice. We bring research and evaluation and data to the conversation. We want to engage in partnership to elevate the stories and successes that so many of you drive. And so we think about ourselves as a thought partner with all of you. And as I said, we work in Arizona and Florida, but I will tell you honestly, Florida's a big state, especially when you're born and raised in Miami, Arizona. Florida is a big state. So though we aspire and try to do things on a statewide basis, many of our partnerships are driven in the urban communities, primarily partnering with the education ecosystems in Tampa Bay, Central Florida, and South Florida. And the idea is, as we work in partnership with these particular communities, with the community here, then we can elevate that work statewide for the benefit of the entire state. So with that, it's my pleasure to ask my colleague Paul Peralt, who will come up and share with you the research behind billions and why we think it's important, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit about how we can work together to elevate the importance of what we're learning today. So please welcome Paul Peralt.
Thank you, Paul, and I'm excited to share the research with you today. But first, I just want to say thank you to everyone that put this event together. I mean, this looks beautiful. The tables are great. Thank you to all the staff that did everything. Please give them a round of applause for that. So before we start talking about the research, I kind of wanted to just talk about higher ed in general in a little bit. Beyond the political moves that we might be seeing today, there's a new narrative that seems to be growing and growing, and that's the narrative that college isn't worth it. Post-secondary education at all isn't worth it. We've all heard the reasons, right? It's too expensive. Takes too much time. You have to take too much in loans. There's all kinds of other jobs out there that you can start making money right now. In fact, we like that when we do these presentations, we'll usually ask the audience, raise your hand if in the last year you've heard anybody say that college isn't worth it anymore. Pretty much the entire room. How about in the last 6 months? Raise your hand. Pretty close to the same. Last month. And then finally, I'll just go to the last week. Anybody here that college isn't worth it this last week? Which is crazy when we think about it. And so, when we started thinking about that aspect, and Paul talked about our work and what we're trying to do, we actually wanted to approach this differently. We got tired of hearing the anecdotal stories, right? This person made $2 million. A friend of mine is an influencer, and suddenly, they're making a ton of money. And so we said, let's stop listening to the anecdotal stories and dig into the data. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is that data and what we can understand from that data. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. No matter how we cut this data and how we look at it, no matter what we do, how we break it up, there are long-term economic benefits for the individual, the society, and the state of Florida as a whole for going to college. So that's going to be our premise today. We're going to start with that. Our data is going to prove that those anecdotal stories wrong. Florida's positioned in a different light too. Paul talked about Arizona. Arizona, for cost of going to college, is about in the middle, about 25th or 26th for tuition. We look at Florida. Florida is one of the most affordable states for tuition. Yet only about 54% of kids from the graduating class of 22, I call them kids, but the graduating seniors from the class of 22 went to college. And last year, less than 50% of students actually completed a FAFSA, which there's a strong correlation that the proportion of students that fill out that FAFSA are going to go to college. So that begs that million-dollar question. Why? Why in Florida is that the case? And this is where I want to put you to work for a second. I want to ask you, so that we can collect this information from you educational leaders, if you will just take a second and scan that QR code right there. It's going to ask you that question that's on there. What is the greatest barrier students face in getting a post-secondary education? So let's take 60 seconds. It'll allow you to give 3 choices, and we can see what everyone's thinking today. So there we go. Now they're popping up. Cost of living, debt, cost. So we'll keep that going and let you do that. But as you can see, again, state of Florida, #1 in the country for cost of tuition statewide. And yet, in the center, cost, debt, finances still continues to be an issue for students. And what I'll make sure that we do is we'll send an email out of this that has this word cloud with it, just so that everyone can think of that. Because this is what we're trying to think about all the time, is what is keeping students from going to college? And again, we continue to see that finance is a big part of it. Same QR code, you can actually do this now. It should be right on your poll. I would love to know, last question, for the average Floridian to be successful in today's workforce, how important it is to have a college degree or credential after high school. So your answers are going to be not important, somewhat important, very important. Second questions are always faster because you're already in that system. So, give us a few more seconds. Well, I have to say I'm very proud of you. I mean, overwhelmingly, way more than 50% are going to be in the very important. You add the somewhat important. But I can tell you that, as a whole, the state of Florida is still fighting this. So in 2023, we actually did a perceptions of higher ed study, or survey for the state of Florida. In our 2023 poll, we found a slim majority, 52% believe that a college degree or credential is important for success in today's workforce. That number dropped significantly from when we did it in 2020, when it was at 88%, and even in 2017, and it was at 62%. So back to that narrative that we're fighting, and now we're seeing that decline in people believing the importance of a college education. Same poll that we did, 68% of respondents agreed that a college degree or credential beyond high school leads to a better economic and workforce outcomes. That's gone down about 11%. It was the same in 79% in 2020 and 2017. Overall, really showing, that still almost 2/3 of the population does believe a college degree or credential leads to a better outcomes. And so there's this disconnect of what's it lead to a better outcomes or what you need to be successful. And so with that is really why we wanted to make sure that we use that data, that we went to this. So very briefly, this project actually started first in Arizona. Working with some very good economists, we walked through and actually wanted to measure, what were the outcomes that we're having with a graduating class in Arizona. We then, worked through that and brought that same research to the state of Florida. And so today, what I'm going to talk about as outcomes are going to be in 3 levels. Number one, what's the individual make if they decide to go to college at different levels? And we're going to look at that from the graduating class of 2023. So if you had a senior student that you were working with in 2023, you could say, basically these are the average amounts that you can make depending on your post-secondary education. We're going to look at the societal impacts. So what does that mean for better schools, better hospitals, better transportation, better food options? And finally, fiscal. Every state in Florida likes that as well. What are those fiscal opportunities and outcomes that's going to be because of that data? So as we work through that, the easiest one that is always the easiest case to make that sale is really talking about lifetime earnings. So talking about lifetime earnings, this is for the graduating class of 2023 for the entire state of Florida. Lifetime earnings for individuals with a bachelor's degree are projected to be nearly 2 times greater than for high school graduates. So if you look at the high school graduate at $791,000, bachelor's degree at about 1.7 million. Looks a little bit smaller, and I couldn't read it anymore. But more than 2 times as much money over your lifetime. So what does that mean for retirement? What does it mean for job security? Not only that, an associate's or bachelor's degree also leads to less automation in jobs. So those people that are not getting an associate's or bachelor's degrees, their jobs are much more likely to be automated, and they're going to be switching jobs over their career. But this is a good way to talk to somebody about, hey, what do you think you want to do? And if you think about retirement and other things, and job security, being able to buy a house anymore, you're going to have a lot more opportunities with each level of post-secondary education. And I think that's one of the easiest selling points. How do you speak to the individual? This is what you could make. This is what your lifetime can look like. The way that we can do this too is, one of the things that we talk about education, and one of my favorite quotes from Horace Mann is, education is the great equalizer. And this really shows the different amounts based upon race and ethnicity that students can make over time with the different types of level of education. So again, from high school dropout to advanced degree, one of the things you'll notice is that there's not parity. When we look at those breakdowns, there's still gaps that are between different race and ethnicities of what you're likely to make. But as we see it grow over time, the more education you have, those gaps get smaller and smaller. So really showing that, the more education that we can have for low-income students, minority students, underserved students, those opportunities and the equity builds in as we get more education. This actually just does a comparison of, how much are you going to make compared to if you're a high school dropout. So like a private value ratio. Just a picture of, again, how do you visually say, over time, this is what you're going to make over time as you get higher degrees. And all we really do is continuously see that the more education that you have, you're going to make a lot more money. Back to that opportunity of what it means for you as the individual, you as a person, what you're going to do with a family, what you're going to do with yourself. One of the things that I'm going to skip that one slide and talk about this, is thinking about, we talked a lot about the individual right now. What does it mean for societal, and what does it mean for the state of Florida? So what we were able to do over time is we were able to, look at prediction models for both the fiscal gains, again, that's tax gains for the state of Florida, and then the social, that's gains from society and local communities. And we actually modeled them after a number of different things. One thing is we had an enrollment rate increase of 10%. We also did degree completion rate by 20%. Readiness gain. The readiness gain is the gain of students being ready for college that was lost during COVID. And then finally, college enrollment and completion rate, which was race by parity. So basically, what if all race and ethnicities went to college at the same rate in Florida? And as you can see, no matter how we cut and slice and dice that, it's billions of gains for the state of Florida. That's why we come back to the Florida billions. In fact, increasing college enrollment 10% could lead to almost $8.4 billion in social gains per cohort. So that means the class of 23 would be $8.4 billion. The 24, if you did another 10%, could be another $8.4 billion. And so you can see economically why this is so important to the state of Florida and how that is. Now, we talked very generally about the state of Florida. We also are able to break this data down by each county in Florida. And that's one of the things we're highlighting and just showing now, too. In partnership with other partners across the state, they're working and looking at each county with the local college access networks and other partners around college going to really understand what does it mean for this county. I give one example here, Miami-Dade County, since we're down in Miami. Here you can do the same thing. If you actually logged in, or at the end you'll have a chance to go to the barcodes, you can see what the increase by those algorithms would mean for Miami. So for example, lifetime earnings for Miami-Dade residents with a bachelor's degree are very close, about 2 times greater than high school graduates. But you'll also see that a high school graduate makes a lot more in Miami than they do across the state. It's because wages are higher. And that's why digging deeper into these county data reports are actually important, because that's when we can start seeing that Miami will make a lot more than if we were in Orlando or Orange, for example, over time. And so increasing college enrollment by 10% actually could lead to $1.2 billion in gains, about $58,000 per student. Really just kind of showing that upward trend of what is the value of going to college. So as we think about this, back to that point of no matter what way we looked at this data, the economic opportunities for the individual, for the state of Florida, and for the families in there are only going to increase with that college going. But now we need to figure out what should Florida do. And so I'm going to turn it back to Paul to talk about what Florida can do.
Thank you, Paul. We just want to wrap up this presentation with this concept that we have about our research and data that basically says we have no impact with research and data unless we move to action and solutions. And action and solutions really are the responsibility of all of us. We're not here to suggest in any way that we have it figured out as a foundation. What we want to do is, in partnership with all of you, we want to think about then how do we take this data and how do we move it to action? And we think about opportunities that we might have. And we highlight a couple here with some ideas. How do we make sure that we are ensuring that our students are well prepared to succeed in post-secondary education and in the workforce? How do we make sure that we're aligning our organizations together to better understand what the future might be for the students that we're serving today? How do we hold ourselves accountable? And that's why we thought it was really important with this data to be able to disaggregate it down to the county level, because each county and community has some different elements, different partners, different industries. And how do we make sure that our industry partners are working with our education partners? Now, none of these statements are meant to suggest that that's not happening. We know that to be the case. We know that our colleges and universities and our schools and our education leaders are working with industry leaders. But the idea of this is using this data to make that work even more meaningful, to ensure that there's greater alignment and communication between the industry needs and the educational success indicators to ensure that there's that alignment. And I think Madeline said this right at the very beginning. And let's make sure that we're keeping our talent that we have in Florida in our state. And this is the way we believe we can go about doing that, is ensuring that our students understand that their bright future is in the state of Florida, and we're going to make sure that they're well educated, well prepared, well aligned to the industries to drive that future success for the state. One other way is back to action. Helios has partnered with one of our longtime strategic partners, the Florida College Access Network. They're working across the entire state with all the local college access networks. Chancellor Pumiega and I have the privilege of serving on the advisory board of FCAN. And we wanted to make sure that there was an organization that day in and day out was in the community advocating using this data. And they've developed a campaign called Talent Strong Florida, Higher Education, Higher Rewards. And the idea is to work meaningfully with leaders like yourselves in your community to help promote the importance of education, education attainment, and to reap the billions of dollars that we know the state can reap by engaging in this education alignment. So again, thank you for the opportunity to share this data. We will give you access to all of the data and the report through this QR code, and you can get it down to the county levels as we've indicated. So thank you once again for allowing us to be here, and I know they're going to capture questions that we will be able to respond to after the program. So thank you again for allowing us to be here. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Rick Beasley, the Executive Director of Career Source South Florida, to continue with the program.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's try it again. God bless us this morning. Good afternoon. So to the Paul and Paul Show, we want to thank you so much for what you do. And, you know, I'm honored to be here. I'm the co-chair of Opportunity Miami, but also the Executive Director of Career Source South Florida. But I want to give a shout out to you all to say thank you all, from business leaders, community leaders, for being here to hear this wonderful conversation we're going to have about education and how it drives our community. Your presence here speaks volume because it's about your commitment to helping build the talent to grow Miami-Dade County. So again, first, I do want to go back to Paul and Paul for the Helios Foundation. We want to thank you for your vision. Thank you for what you have done, your leadership, your partnership with the Beacon Council. You know, you help drive Miami, and that's, you know, when you're seeing the data, that's really helpful. The Florida Futures Billions report indicates the modest gains if we have more folks enroll, and then they can complete. The billions of dollars can generate for our community, and that's important, folks. So this is why education matters. When you look at this panel, it talks about education as an economic power. And sometimes, you know, and I shared this with Rob when he first got here, Miami-Dade County really is a college town. And we don't see it that way, but it helps generate our talent, which grows, you know, economically for us. And so when you look at this panel, and I want to give a shout out to Ashley, who helped kind of put this thing together with Dr. Hopkins, and she has been great. But it's about education as an economic power. So that this panel tells about how education becomes this power, how it empowers our families, it empowers our community, it empowers our neighborhoods. So again, when you look at it, how education really benefits our community, this is where we all have to partner together with industry, our educational leaders, to grow our community. So how does Career Source South Florida fit into this? And I will share with you all, again, it's about opportunity, how we help. So last year, we invested over $34.4 million back into this community. We were able to help over 9,000 folks get employed in our community. And I will share with you all, we generated over $256 million of salaries back into our community. So for every dollar we spent, we have a $7.14 return on our investment. That's how we invest in this community. So when I say that, again, about education, you know, the programs that we put forth, and we have our future Assistant Secretary of Labor here, Henry Mack. So again, WIA, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, is under his control. So you want to talk about the programs that we have, the adult program that we have, the investment that we make. So when we talk about education, you know, we generated for when you look at the pre versus post, there's a $10,000 difference for those folks who have come into our system that were able to get employed. That's $4.2 million of salary just because of education. So when you look at the Helios report, that's why we focus on education, why it's an economic power for our community. And so I have the great distinct pleasure of introducing some very powerful leaders here that is a part of the Academic Leaders Council. Unfortunately, Dr. Dochos is not able to join us today, but we also have some great folks here. You know, I want to say that, you know, we have a great leader here who's our great host here at Miami-Dade College, Madam President Poriega. She's here. We want to thank you for hosting us today. So if I can, it is my honor to introduce our leaders. So if I can have Madam President Poriega come up, if I can have Madam President Nunez come up, if I can have President McCormick come up, President Allen come up as well, and last but not least, Dr. Armstrong, if you can come as well. So these leaders will be here, and then last but not least, our fearless leader from the Beacon Council, Roderick Miller, will come and have this discussion on how education really drives our community. And it will be led by an outstanding leader, Ashley Wright with WOT Educational Services. If you all don't know Ashley, she is a powerhouse. You get those calls early in the morning to focus on education. But keep in mind, in this moment that we have, Miami doesn't need our permission to be great. We just need action. And that's what I find about these leaders up here, the action that they're taking to help focus on the programs that addresses the issues of our industry. The people in this room and on this stage, we're the ones that can really help move Miami-Dade County. So with that, let's rock and roll with this panel. I want to thank you all for being here, and again, for our folks in the audience, I want to thank you all for being here, and so we're going to turn it over to you, Ashley.
Thank you, Rick. Good afternoon. Come on, Miami. We can do better than that. Good afternoon, Miami. All right. We're excited to hear from our phenomenal academic leaders who lead our academic institutions every day and exemplify the butterfly effect. Have y'all heard of the butterfly effect? Y'all familiar with the butterfly effect? These leaders flap their wings every single day, and as a result of the decisions they make and the teams that they have the phenomenal opportunity to work beside, things happen, and they change things in our community. And so I'm just asking you guys to bear with us, because all of them have a lot they'd like to share about their institutions and what's going on. But we've asked them to limit their answers to just a minute. So you'll see me nudge them affectionately with the timeout sign so that we can make sure that they all have an opportunity to address, and so that you guys can have questions in the audience. And so as we get through this, if you have any questions, there are QR codes on your tables. Please take your camera out and get that QR code, so if you have any questions, we'll be able to answer those at the end for you as they are sharing. And so are y'all ready to buckle up? Because we're about to get fast and furious talking about education and the power it has here in our economic development in Miami. So I'm going to start with our hostess down at the very end, President Poriega. And this question is for every single leader sitting here on the panel. But the question is, how are Miami-Dade universities, and to you, Roderick, the Beacon Council, working together with private industry to accelerate that goal that we have of the 65% by 2040?
All right. If you don't get energized with her, I'm not sure here. Check your temperature. This is better than un cafecito, which is coming next. Don't worry, you got cortaditos coming. But I would just say that one of the ways that we partner at Miami-Dade College is, and our institutions are through advisory boards. We welcome industry leaders to be part of our advisory boards when we are developing curriculum, when we're designing programs. I can speak to, we did it when we were addressing the teacher shortage with the superintendent in creating a residency and an apprenticeship program. We've done it with the automotive technician programs with Tesla and Bean Automotive and Warren Henry. And then we've done it with healthcare partners around nursing with Jackson and Baptist and creating those pathways. And today, the governor announced that we have a job growth grant that we will do around aviation and aerospace, working with American Airlines and AAR. So I think when we're designing curriculum at Miami-Dade College, we're designing it for our industry partners and with our industry partners.
It's phenomenal. President Nunez.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here. And what I would say is that FIU is committed, of course.
Can we give a warm welcome to President Nunez? It's her first meeting, and so we want to make sure we say congratulations and welcome back home.
Thank you. Nothing like being thrown into the frying pan.
That's right, that's right.
But what I would say is that FIU is committed, of course, with all of our academic partners, and I think we have so many examples of success working with everyone here at this table and, of course, our school district. But I think for far too long, academia has sort of sat in the back seat and dictated what they thought industry needed or how it should proceed in terms of developing curriculum. And what we've really done, and certainly under my leadership, I want to focus on bringing industry to the forefront, making sure that we are aligned with what industry needs, because we know how quickly technology is shaping industry and upending, in some cases, industry. So FIU wants to be part of that solution early on. We don't want to react. We want to be proactive. And that I could use an example of working with the team at Kaseya, or working with our cruise industry, with our hospitality school, understanding what are the changes, what are the trends in your industry, so that we can prepare academically to make sure that our students are going to be not only educated with the excellence and the rigor they've become accustomed to at our institutions, but also that they can graduate on that stage. Next week we'll have graduation, and they can be employed by your companies. That's something that we're really focused on and providing.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. And just so you know, it's hard for any of us to even say hello in a minute. And in case you were wondering, Dave and I, President Armstrong and I, did just come from the two-for-one suit sale down the street as we matched for the day.
It's a Catholic school thing.
You chose well. You chose well.
That's right, the sale rack. So anyway, thanks so much for having us. Thanks to the Beacon Council. Thanks to the Helios Foundation. Your leadership is so important. For us at Barry University, this idea comes down to access and affordability, right? Creating access. We have over 1,000 students in dual enrollment programs all throughout high schools here in South Florida, all throughout the state. Partnerships locally with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, other organizations like that, the YWCA, the Crockett Foundation, bringing high school students who may not see themselves in college one day, bringing their parents to our campus, showing them, convincing them that college is possible, and then that college is affordable. It's a myth that the cost of college, particularly private universities, has gone up and up and up. The sticker price has gone up, but the net price has not. And we've done everything we can to make it very affordable. It makes our business models much more difficult, but it's worth it because it's the right thing to do to make these opportunities possible for these students, and that's what we try to do at Barry University.
Thank you, President.
Well, good afternoon, and I tell you, it's a delight to see such diversity and excitement in your eyes. But at Florida Memorial, I'm 11 months on the job in the interim president role. But the whole process now for us is helping our kids level up. Get them to level up to a point to believe the excellence is ongoing every day. And part of that is to reach down, pull them up, and push hard for them to understand that there's an industry out there waiting for them, but they got to come ready, motivated, anxious, prepared. So we teach them the learn to earn method. We want them to learn as much so they can earn as much. So that's what we're doing at Florida Memorial. I need like 8 minutes, but I'm gonna pass it to.
I appreciate it.
Today.
We had to rehearse elevator pitches.
Okay, the clock does not start yet. I want to say Rod Miller, J.C. Lascano, and Rick Beasley, we have unbelievable leaders here that for education get in touch with the industry, and that is rare. I've worked at 5 colleges and universities in different areas of the country, and what they do is fantastic. Give them a round of applause. Okay, now my minute starts. Dr. Joseph Owen, president of Northeastern University, several years ago wrote a book called Robot Proof. How do we make ourselves essential in the workforce when artificial intelligence is coming in? And he talked about that we have to educate our students for the 3 literacies. Technological literacy, you have to know how to use technology. Big data literacy, you need to know how to gather big data, disseminate big data, communicate big data to others who do not understand. And then the human literacy, the liberal arts, being able to read well, write well, communicate effectively. And the best way to teach those 3 literacies is experiential learning. At St. Thomas University, we make experiential learning, internships, co-ops, study abroad, service learning, apprenticeships, mandatory, a requirement for graduation. It's on their transcript. So that means that our students get real-world experience before they graduate. And most of them, we have 100% the last 2 years in our graduating classes. Most of them have 2 to 3 requirements before they leave. What does that do for the industry? That means our students have to go out into the industry, work for you, whether for free or if you decide to pay them, and that you don't have to spend all kinds of money on searches and things like that, because you can take 10 of our students. We're happy they got their requirement. You decide to hire 2 of them. We're happy because that's our job, is to get them out there in the workforce. So experiential learning is crucial.
President Miller?
So it's interesting. So I'm the only non-university president up here.
We still like you, Rod.
I feel like I'm with the elite of the elite. A couple of thoughts. So Beacon Council, our mandate is simple. It's how do we grow this economy in a way that's healthy, that ensures that there's prosperity. And a big piece of that from a workforce perspective is our institutions. Someone was saying earlier, I think it was Rick was saying that this is a college town. I've been doing this work for over 20 years. I've done it in 5 or 6 communities, and I've never had an academic leaders council like this. When companies come in and say, we need help, 8 out of 10 times, I can tell them which of the institutions has the exact program that they're looking for. And if it doesn't have the exact program that they're looking for, I say, hey, let's call some of the presidents and let's get them together. And someone was saying earlier, you don't have an Ivy League school here. I'm actually kind of grateful we don't. Because I would tell you what we do have, is we have institutions that work very well with the private sector. They're responsive. So when companies come and they say, it doesn't matter what they say they need, these folks deliver us. That's the real value. And we, in the Beacon Council, we see our role as, how do we convene? How do we bring together the players? Thank you. How do we bring together the players and partners that are needed to actually have solutions emerge that need to emerge? We know that 8 out of 10 times if you get the right people on the room, the solutions emerge. The second thing that we see as part of our role is convening and connecting. How do we not only convene people, but how do we connect the dots and capture the information? So, 2 years ago when I first got on, the Academic Leaders Council put out a report that says we're going to get to 65% of the population with at least a 2-year credential equivalent. And then how do we elevate that information? Because part of it is not just ensuring that we've got the information and we bring the people together and we develop the solutions, but how do we spread the word so that it becomes a part of our culture and part of our DNA as a market? And that's what our role is. And what's interesting is all the companies are saying the same thing. They can't get enough talent. Talent is the most important factor in driving the productivity of our economy. And academic leaders are really what's at the tip of the spear.
Thank you. Wasn't that awesome? Did y'all learn something? All right, so we move to our next and our final question before we open up to the audience. And this is really targeted towards, we've got a lot of industry leaders. And so as we want to speak to them, what is happening in your educational ecosystem that you're super excited about, that you want to share with these people in the audience today? And we'll start with you, President Armstrong.
Oh, I was going to think for a little bit.
You see?
I thought we were going over there. She threw the curveball at me.
I told you Ashley would keep you up and going.
I thought we had the curveball. Okay. So I have 2 things. Number 1, I will do I'll talk about this first. So just recently, and before he becomes Assistant Secretary of Labor, he's still my Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, Henry Mack, who has done a wonderful job. We will be rolling out publicly. We did a soft launch, but we're going to roll it out publicly. AREN, Artificial Intelligence Research Ethical Network. At St. Thomas University, we educate ethical leaders for the global community. We have an Institute for Ethical Leadership Studies. And with that, and our law school and criminal justice and education, we have come out with, we are going to be the depository of research on the ethical use of AI. Okay, because we're all, good, round of applause, that's fantastic. We're all talking about the use of AI, and it's going to be fantastic, and we know it's going to be great, and it's going to help a lot of things and all those things, but we have to have some checks and balances, and we have to make sure that we're doing it the right way and have good policies and procedures and guardrails. And so please look out for that announcement. We are very excited about that, and I want to thank, again, Henry Mack for the work he's done. Now here's my mic drop moment. We just found this out yesterday. We talk about higher ed and opportunities. Carnegie classification tells you if you're a Research 1 or if you're a baccalaureate school, all those kind of things. They came out with a new ranking. Opportunity colleges and universities. Higher access, higher earnings. St. Thomas University is one of the top schools in the country for higher access and higher earnings. Dropping the mic.
Well, I have several exciting things, but the one I want to share today is It's a thank you to the community. When Florida Memorial came from St. Augustine in 1968 to South Florida, the community embraced Florida Memorial. And since 1968, they've been the shoulders that we've leaned on. And so we've now decided that we're going to say thank you in a big way to the community by creating impact residence using repurposed property on our campus to make affordable living in Miami-Dade Gardens, Florida. So we have 895 units that will be going on our campus.
First off, Henry, congratulations on the new appointment. I'd be lying if I said we weren't, sorry to see you leave the competition across town there, but congratulations.
I heard Mike's going to drive you to the airport.
Exactly, or pay for the Uber. We talk so often about companies coming in and what do they need and what do they want for their employees. We know about transportation. We know about the housing crisis and the impact that has. What I hear more than anything else right now from CEOs and other leaders coming in is about K through 12 education. And we have some leaders here from the K through 12 system from Miami-Dade schools. We have some private school leaders. What they don't have is enough teachers. And if we can't provide education for employees who are coming in from out of state, they're not going to come. If they can't find what they need for their children, they're not going to come. So at Berry, we have two innovative programs, one with the county where we develop full scholarships from benefactors, particularly in this case for male high school students who have indicated that they want to become teachers because that's where the primary shortage lies. And that program's off and running. We're producing more teachers. We also have a program throughout the state with an organization called Bloomberg where we upskill through full scholarships, again, paraprofessionals in the schools who want to become fully certified teachers. And that's throughout the entire state of Florida. So we're doing our part to try and help address that teacher shortage here in Florida.
Great. There are many in the economic development space that often say if you want a great city, you need two things. You need great universities and great hospitals and healthcare system. And so FIU is proud to be a preeminent university, one of only 4 in the state of Florida is designated by the state. We're also proud that we're a major research top 50 public university. And in that space, in particular in healthcare, we're very proud that most recently we signed affiliation and partnership agreements with both Baptist Health South Florida as well as Nicholas Children. And one of the things that we're proud of, in particular with our research, and that's true of everything, regardless of whether we're talking about healthcare or other types of research, is that we want our research to solve real-world problems. We know academics like to kind of delve into a lot of policy issues, but I think when you're talking about saving lives, for example, work that's being done right now in our School of Public Health on functional precision medicine to address pediatric cancer. Those are the types of things that we want to be involved in and that really excite me and are very inspiring as we move forward and make sure that we're addressing the issues and the challenges, again, whether it's healthcare or environmental resilience, which two of those issues are part of our strategic plan. So we're really proud to be a part of that ecosystem.
Awesome. So I want to, on a few things. One, to the school district, I think the work that they've been doing in increasing the pipeline. Today, just at Miami-Dade College, 17,000 students are enrolled in dual enrollment. And what that means to families in our community, a $12 million savings in college. And when we look cost as being one of the #1 barriers, we're all doing our work together and making sure that college is accessible and affordable to families and that students are getting that early start. So that's critically important, and it's been really the leadership of the superintendent, and want to say thank you to that. As we mentioned, we've been working with the school district on creating the residency program that then became statewide for teachers and the apprenticeship program so that you don't have to leave your job to become a teacher. You can begin to work, and we can put a caring adult in the classroom for every student to have and create that environment where they can be successful. And we've led on artificial intelligence. We launched the first college credit certificate, associates in science and bachelors of applied science in artificial intelligence. And what we've done now is join a consortium around the country. In Arizona, Maricopa is part of it, where we're sharing that curriculum so colleges and universities across the country don't have to spend time making up the curriculum. The curriculum is there. But I would just say around AI, Jeff Bezos said it best the other day. He said artificial intelligence is like electricity. You walked in and you didn't know, the electric is on. AI is going to do the same. So the critical importance of not just using it as a vertical, but integrating it in everything that we're doing, whether you're going into healthcare, architecture, or computer science, that it's all part of the future of work, because they're going to be critical skills for us to have.
We want to end the last question with you, Mr. Miller. If you could just hear all of this phenomenal information from all of your universities sitting on the panel, what do you see that is happening in our system, in our community, that you're super excited about?
The biggest thing that I'm excited about is what we're experiencing today, which is there is a very intentional conversation around what are our opportunities and what are our challenges, and how do we come together as a collective to solve it. Whether you're talking about how AI is going to impact the future of work, whether you're talking about housing affordability, whether you're talking about healthcare, whether you're talking about education, teaching. The biggest challenges of our market are also our biggest opportunities, because Miami is not distinct or unique in that we're facing these challenges. I think what's really special about us is the way that we come together to solve it, and I have no doubt that we will be able to solve these challenges.
Wasn't that exciting? Do you have any questions?
I would say your expertise, but really important, internships. I think that the best way that we prepare students is by experiential learning, as President Armstrong said, and work-based learning. And the best place you get that experience is in the workplace. So I think developing internships, and I would just say, because we have so many small businesses, a perfect example of what we did in banking is we created an apprenticeship program with 10 banks taking 2 apprentices in each, knowing that sometimes it's difficult for small businesses to create robust internship programs. There's a way that we can use our collective impact to still be able to do that and get that work-based learning opportunity in.
Any other person that will respond to that?
Yep.
Testing. Okay. If the employees could become subject matter experts on campus to interface with the students doing like class lectures and things of that would be very helpful. To give them a chance to interact. If it's not interns, they can have dialogue. I think it's very good for them to hear strictly from the industry workers themselves.
Really, just to echo what President Pumariego was saying in terms of internships, we know that 65% of students are likely to obtain a post-technical internship degree. Once they graduate, they're able to find employment, and if they complete 2 internships, that number skyrockets to 97%. So I think the onus is on you all in the industry to please communicate with us and not only offer the internships, but actively engage through advisory councils, through active engagement in events like this, and reaching out to us in the president's office and the provost's office and all of the team within the organizations, because we truly want to be responsive, and I think that is something that we all share at this panel.
Thank you so much.
Could I just add, we need to know what you need to see in our graduates. We need you to tell us, and then we need you to trust us and work with us to deliver that to you, and just know how open-minded we are to doing that.
And we understand premium is common sense, but we don't always sell that now.
And I would just say the other thing that you could do is call us. If you need a program and you think that higher education is not helping you, call me. I'll start that program. If you're going to offer internships, you're going to offer scholarships to our students, you can lock them in for 3 years, 5 years because you gave them scholarships, call me. We'll make it happen.
Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate all of our university leaders being with us today, as well as you, Mr. Miller. Can we have JC come up, please, at this time?
Good day, everybody. I am an airline person. I work at an airport. I don't know what I'm doing up here with so many people in academia, but you all make me look smart, so thank you. I'll give it a good try. Look, I'm JC Lascano. I head American Airlines here. It is our largest international airport. I'm incredibly proud to tell you we're the largest private employer. We're about to hit 15,000 team members. In the last 3 years, we've hired 2,500 team members alone. So you can imagine the conversations I've had with Rick and other people and why the work that you do is so incredibly important to us, but also to the vibrancy of this community. Paul Luna, thank you. You may not know this, but Paul Luna shared, he's a concierge key on us. Thank you for paying my salary, Paul. I value that so much. But the work that you and the Helios Education Foundation is incredibly important. And stick with me here for a second, right? There's someone I incredibly respect in this room that helped prepare these remarks, and she thought it would be like nice to bring it on along like if it was a flight. So I'm not gonna ask you to put on your seatbelts, but stick with me. So Paul's job was in essence creating a flight plan for all of us, right? You now know what the destination is. What is that destination? 65 by 2040. If we want to get there successfully, we have to educate 65% of the adults by 2040. That means in the next 15 years, there's 103,942, I can't believe I remember that number, and it is exact to that, in terms of getting higher education or some quality certificate degree. If we're able to do that, you will have elevated that household. You will have improved the strength of that neighborhood. You will have elevated the region that we all love and live in. So it is incredibly important. Now, we haven't taken off yet, you know, and there are a few things that are incredibly important about that. And it's not because I'm American that I'm going to talk about American, but that's kind of something I'm going to do right now. Look, being part of this community is incredibly important. Why does private industry become such an incredibly key component of this? And so I'll give you a few examples, and I might put somebody on the spot as well. You know, FMU, we gave a grant. They're providing scholarships to future aviators, and this program is happening right now. Miami-Dade County Public Schools, they have George T. Baker Aviation. We have an agreement in place to give their top graduates direct interviews at American. You may not know this, but 18 years, you're an aircraft maintenance technician, and on day one, without a minute overtime, you will make $97,000 a year. We're offering those opportunities through the Dade County Public School System. By the way, the part that you really love is you get to fly for free on day one. 55% of this community is from somewhere else, so that's an incredibly important thing to do. But we also support FIU. You know, who doesn't love going to the Food and Wine Festival? I do, I love food, but it's not about the food and the drinking. We actually do that with very specific purpose. It supports the Chaplain School of Hospitality and Tourism. That is so key in such a key industry sector in our community. And so we're gonna continue to do that because it has that much of an impact. And Madeline, the program you're standing up in aviation is important. That airport is the #1 economic engine in Miami-Dade County. It will continue to be, no matter how much we love all the financial firms and all the tech sector that's growing here, but it will still continue to be at the center of our economic future. So look, as the chair of Beacon Council, I want to share with you that it isn't just about attracting businesses. That is what we do pretty much all the time. How do we get companies to invest, to grow, to add jobs, and to attract business? But making sure that the architecture, the ecosystem behind economic development, that is healthy as well is important. It's exactly why we're having this conversation. It's exactly why Opportunity Miami is important. It's exactly why the Academic Leaders Council works. I don't know about you, but I'm sitting there and I'm trying to have my strawberry pastry and I'm looking on stage and I'm look at the synergy of everybody. You would think otherwise. Your flight will leave on time. But look at the synergy of everybody on stage. And so if you have a takeaway besides the incredible information that we got, and I hope you take advantage of that QR code, is how this community is working together for the future and success of you and your kids and those that are institutions right now. So please have that as a takeaway. Huge thank to all the other institutions that make up the Academic Leaders Council. There's something I can tell you about each and every one, so forgive me for not doing that. But I want to kind of bring it all together in this fashion. Employers, those of you that are in this room, Rashad, I don't know if you're still in this room. If you are, raise your hand. But Rashad at AT&T, They do a lot of community support. He is in the middle of a lot of very similar programs to make sure there are successful pathways to the future workers of this community. And so please have a conversation with him. Understand how you can get upstream in that process. The more you work upstream, the more success you will have in being involved in the success of this community. To the educators, keep aligning to that future need. I love the way you created that proposition, which is let us know what you need, but trust me in delivering that for you. And I think that's a very powerful statement to make. And to the policymakers, it's about a flight. Just make it non-turbulent. Clear the obstacles in the way. Let us get there with no movement and help us scale, please. And to everybody else in this room, this is not possible unless we function as a community. It is hard to think about it that way because you're consumed with what you're responsible for. But if you look around, you look at this room and think of the power that can be harvested if we really come together, I have no doubt that we're going to achieve 65 by 2040. Thank you so much.
Ashley, are we dismissed? I mean, only if you let us.